Good morning. It's lovely to be back with another devotion, and Happy New Year to everyone. Every end of year, just before New Year, I like to sit down, find the time to what I call reap. And by that I mean to reflect, to envision, and to action plan. So this is a time when I sit down with God and me, myself, and I, with God very much in the center of all that. And it's an opportunity for me to look back, over the last 12 months, and more like a Q&A with myself and God, and an appraisal kind of thing where we look at what went well and so on, and with a view to developing a plan for the next 12 months and beyond about how Catherine can develop and become a better version of Catherine. And with that, it starts off like with the reflection. And reflecting is when I look at the last 12 months. What has gone well? What has gone well in the last 12 months? What have I been able to achieve? What have I completed? What have I inspired? What have I organized? What have I been successful for? What things am I grateful for? And I take the time to write them all in my little notebook and write down as much as I can. And yeah, sometimes I can't write everything down, but because this is a usual practice that I do, so I just go over the stuff that I've been grateful for, that I've documented throughout the year, and take the time to just thank God, and just with a heart of thanksgiving, and just reflect and to see, the goodness of God throughout the year. At the same time, I use the reflection to look at things that I probably would have wanted to be different, particularly in 2020. There've been a lot of things which I would have loved to be different. Some of those things were completely out of my control, and I hand them over to God and let go so that I'm not, focusing on the past. And some of those things, perhaps I made a mistake, I did wrong, and I ask God to forgive me. I probably will have already done that, but I just reflect on that. If there's any unfinished business that I really need to take to God, I use that opportunity to really focus on that and let it go. And I also remember to forgive myself. We all make mistakes, but we can't continue carrying that over and over and over. We have to get to the point where we draw the line and say, this is it, and move on. So during that period of reflection, God has really showed me 3 things that are really important for me to focus on in 2021. And one of them is about regularly reviewing. So continuing this reviewing process, and not just for my life, but the lives of those around me. And also to rebuild. How do we rebuild together? So much has happened in 2020. People have lost loved ones, people have lost jobs and so on. How do we rebuild together so that we can walk together and be strengthened together? And lastly, how do we relate? How can we relate meaningfully so that even if somebody is among us, they don't feel isolated or lonely? So those 3 things are really important that God has shown me. And rather than having a list of, I will do this or plan to do this and so on, He showed me a different way of looking at things. What can I do less of, and what can I do more of? And very quickly, one of the top things that came out was less planning and more doing. And then less talking and more listening. Less worrying and more hoping. And also less complaining and more encouraging. Less frowning and more smiling. Less insecurity and more trust. Less weakness and more confidence or faith. So an increase in faith. And less ignorance, more understanding. Let's be more understanding of what's going on. And that's about getting wisdom. And if we lack wisdom, God can show us what to do. Let's hate less and love more. Less junk food, more healthy eating. Less couch potato and more exercise going on to the 5K. I've been really impressed by those people who have successfully completed it, and I do take that challenge. What about you? What are you going to do less of and more of? That's a challenge to you, and let's do this together. Let's remember to review where we're at on a regular basis. Let's remember to rebuild together, and let's remember to relate with one another in a meaningful way. Thank you, and God bless.